Welcome to Santaroga Surplus. You've probably noticed that Brownells has something called the 605 out now, and that is a build that reproduces the original carbine length Colt 605. So this is an A2. This is actually a Olympic Arms, but it's a pre-band, so it's actually kind of cool. This is an A2 with the standard length barrel. And what Ian and Carl were shooting on in-range during one of their competitions recently, the 605 has a 16-inch barrel, comes out to here. Okay? So we're going to put this down for a minute, and we're going to talk about the build that I'm going to do. I thought the 605 idea was pretty cool, and I also like 9mm AR carbines. Now, I didn't like them before, but they're getting much better now. I've built a couple with dedicated Glock lowers, and I've worked on some Colt lowers now, or Colt-style lowers. And so I decided that I would go ahead and piece together a 605 type build with a 9mm. Now, 9mm doesn't benefit significantly from barrel lengths past about 10.5, 11 inches. Really, 8.5 is where you start hitting diminishing returns. Past 13, it's just a waste, but we have laws, and sometimes you actually have to shoot a carbine instead of a pistol brace. So I decided to get a 16-inch barrel and the cheapest parts I could find and see if I could do this one kind of on the cheap before I do a better one. So Delta Team Tactical, which is a very low-end kind of put parts in a bag kind of reseller, was doing an A1 parts kit. Pretty cheap. It had a plastic handguard, A1 upper receiver with the side parts, teardrop, forward assist, buttstock, some other parts. Significantly missing some parts, like no barrel nut, no rifle buffer or spring. You know, so it was a partial lot of parts, and the price was okay. But then I went ahead and started buying other things to make it go together better, and there are a few things I didn't cheap out on. So let's bring it in a little, take a look. The Delta Team Tactical parts kit came out okay. You know, if you can find parts better other places, or if you want to source your parts, if you want to get an actual 9mm upper, that's a good thing. And I'll probably do that for a future build, but this is on the cheap. So we're dealing with a standard AR forward assist upper, and there's no 9mm cutout or anything, and that'll work okay. The sights they gave me are dead on. Okay, I already installed those, so I'm just not going to do a video on that. I've tightened the barrel on there. It's a standard profile barrel, so it's set up for a carbine handguard. So I have to do something to make the rifle length handguard fit, and we'll describe how that works in a little bit. No magic finger rest grip, and to make sure that it was going to run right, I went ahead and got a Sprinco green spring. We'll come forward and we'll talk about that in a little bit. And I made the buffer much heavier. Okay, so the Acre Harvey upper is what it is. The handguards are actually well lined, and they're not bad at all. Now, we don't have a gas block rim here, so we have nothing to hold this on. So what I did was I threaded the gas tube hole number 10, okay? It works perfectly, no reaming, no nothing, with a number 10 tap. And then I put a number 10 screw in, and that is attached very solidly. You will see a similar thing done on CMMG 22 builds. So I didn't invent this. Then I went ahead and I filed off, I actually hacksawed and then filed, the bayonet mount, bayonet retaining mount. And then I drilled this hole. This hole's already drilled on at least the A2 block that you get from Brownells. And it's perfectly sized to thread for number 832. So I went ahead and drilled this with a number 28 drill and threaded both of them for number 8 32. The set screws are a little extra long, and that's because I don't have any shorter ones right now, and I'm waiting for another supply shipment to come in, and then I'll just replace them. I'm going to have to also do some touch-up bluing on this. We'll get to that. Once you have this set up, it'll go on just fine. You still need to level things out. It's one reason I don't have the front sight installed yet. Okay, and I'll show you how I do that on the vise. Normally, to level out front and rear sights like doing an AK build, you would balance long cleaning rods or some other straight stick on the front and the rear, the trunnion and the front sight block, and then you could use them as clock sticks and get things pretty straight. Instead, I have a Start machinist level. So this is like a regular construction level, but extra sensitive. So I'm going to put it here and see how level my shop is. Okay, and it's actually not bad. I'm just touching the line this way, so it's tilted like 2 degrees that way. And I'm going to put it on here and twist things around a little bit. Until I've got it level. If that looked really fast, it's because I practiced it off camera. Then I'm going to get the set screws tight. Just touch tight, because I want to check and see if I've moved anything. Things always shift when you start tightening your nuts. Okay, and that's pretty good. Now the question is why I'm not drilling through and doing the pins in the standard fashion. And part of it is because it's 9mm and I don't want to overdo the depth of the pins, even though it's a lower pressure round. The other reason is that with one of these in place, everything is held solid, so if I want to drill through, I can drill through the easy way and just use a carbide bit and go all the way through. And I would use straight pins instead of taper pins on a project like this because there's no gas pressure in here. There's no tube running to it. But honestly, this will probably work just fine. And if I ever decide that I want to recover this gas block as a gas block, I can actually pull the set screws out and then drill at that point in time and have no issues. So, let's go back to the table. Okay, so now we're going to talk about a couple of accessory parts. I tend to try to buy American whenever I can with AR-15 stuff. And it's not that I have anything against the Chinese. I actually think Norinco does really good firearms work. And, you know, if the import situation wasn't the way it was, we'd probably have really good mil-spec M1 carbines hitting the market for $450. But import restrictions are what they are. So I think this may actually be a Chinese-made buttstock, but I'm not sure. Everything else, I'm pretty sure I've managed to get American-made. The buttstock's not bad. It's not the original color, and that's okay. I'm not worried about it. All the parts are there. The rifle tube I ordered separately from Brownells. So, like I said, Sprinco, okay? Sprinco, S-P-R-I-N-C-O, are the only people I know of that I could easily find who make extra strength rifle springs. You can get extra strength carbine springs, although I think Sprinco actually makes a better. The Sprinco Red is better for most of your 9mm, 40, 45, 10mm pistol builds or AR pistol caliber builds. But they're green. They're color-coded. Their green spring is the only rifle-length extra power spring that I could easily find, and their prices are pretty good. So I went ahead and ordered this. And then I popped the pin. There's just a roll pin holding the cap on a buffer tube. And I took out one of the long steel weights and the short steel weight. I left the other steel weight in there. So when you pull one of these apart, it's going to have one of the short weights that you're used to seeing, and then two of these longer weights, okay? So I replaced one of these longer weights with 3 pieces of tungsten, and then I replaced the shorter one. So, just ordered baggies of tungsten weights, and when I was done, I weighed this, and it's a 9 3/8 ounce buffer, and that should be really good for using a 9mm. I'll probably still, I'm not sure yet because I haven't actually timed everything, but I'll probably still have to put a buffer extension or buffer plate in the back of this, okay? Like a stack of washers in there to prevent over travel, but that's the only thing I really have left to look at in terms of buffer system. So this is going to be just fine. And in the next video, we'll get into the magwell. I'm going to use a dedicated Colt permanently mounted magwell, and we'll see how it goes re-drilling that and putting it in. Have a good one.